Welcome to Awaken Radio, where we're bringing prophetic sound in the midnight hour. I am your host, Iris, and we have Giovanna here as well. And as we sound the alarm, I want to take us to Jeremiah 4, where it says, "Announce in Judah and proclaim in Jerusalem and say, sound the trumpet throughout the land and cry out loud and say, gather together and let us flee to the fortified cities." When the Lord brought this scripture, he's basically stating that he's saying that we should all gather together and begin to cry out and intercede and begin to create a fortified city. And the word fortified means to strengthen a place with a defensive work so as to protect it against the attacks. And as watchmen, that's what we are called to do, to protect the regions and cities that we currently reside in. So let's start our program. The program that we're starting today is called America the Beautiful, and that was something that was given to me by the Lord. And as he gave me the title America the Beautiful, he said it became America the Beatitudes. Oh my goodness, my accent. Beatitudes. Oh my goodness. When all else fails, start to pronounce all the vowels. You will find the Beatitudes in Matthew chapter 5, verse 3 and 10. And I'm going to just begin to declare this over America. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. Blessed are the pure heart, for they will see God. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God. And blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. America, we declare over you today that your colors will stand as courageous as the day as it was proclaimed to you. May your white be as clean and purified and restored in your innocence. Let your red be covered by the blood of Jesus in all its valor, and live faithful in your hardiness. May there be an awakening found in your blue for your justice, praying in perseverance and vigilance, and let all 50 states encounter heaven's glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. And today we are going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about the good and the bad. We're going to give prophetic insight on what's been going on in the past week. Between prophetic words and prophetic news, whatever you want to call it. But before we begin, I want to always start off, we're going to start off with the prophetic song of the week. And I feel that there is a song that the Lord is declaring over the body of Christ. And it's because I believe that as praying that God has seen that a lot of us have been in a despair of hopelessness and feeling as there is no hope in us to be able to be transformed and restored by God because of our heart issues, because of our conditions, from the natural to the spiritual. But God doesn't see that. He sees his son when he sees us. So Natalie Grant, which many know her, she has a song called Clean. And I'm going to allow you guys to hear it. It's about 4 minutes long, and it's a very prophetic sound to the body of Christ right now. And I believe that God is restoring our hope and uplifting our faith and getting us ready for what's to come. So, let's take a look.
I see shattered, you see whole. I see broken, but you see beautiful. And you're helping me to believe. You're restoring me piece by piece. There's nothing too dirty that you can't make worthy. You wash me in mercy. I am clean. There's nothing too dirty that you can't make worthy. You wash me in mercy. I am clean. What was dead now lives again. My heart's beating, beating inside my chest. Oh, I'm coming alive with joy and destiny. Oh, 'cause you're restoring me piece by piece. Oh, there's nothing too dirty that you can't make worthy. You wash me in mercy. I am clean, oh yeah. There's nothing too dirty that you can't make worthy. You wash me in mercy. I am clean. Washed in the blood of your sacrifice. Your blood flowed red and made me white. My dirty rags are purified. I am clean. Washed in the blood of your sacrifice. Your blood flowed red and made me white. My dirty rags are purified. I'm clean, I'm clean. Oh, washed in the blood of your sacrifice. Your blood flowed red and made me white. My dirty rags are purified. I'm clean. I am clean. I'm clean. Oh, you make me, you wash me clean. Oh, you made me clean.
Wow, wow, wow. Natalie knows how to go in on that, huh? She must have experienced something that we are now experiencing now. And according to the lyrics, she says that there's nothing that he cannot restore. There's nothing he cannot make clean. And when we feel like filthy rags, his blood, will wash through the sacrifice. So we have to begin to have ourselves put our minds into that, and begin to relive in hope again, and faith that, as sinners that we are, that we're still loved and God still shows mercy, and there's more than enough time to change. So that's Natalie Grant, and the song title is called Clean. So if you ever want to hear it again, that's what it is. And I believe that that's a prophetic voice for this hour. God is taking the body of Christ and literally making it clean. It's been so perverted and twisted and dysfunctional, and not really not really moving in the way it should. And this is the hour where he'll begin to mature us, so that we can become one in unity. And it's a good song. So we move on. So that was this week's prophetic song. And this week for the prophetic voice, we have Leonard Ravenhill. And many of us know who Leonard is. Many of us don't want to hear about him. But unfortunately, for the best of us, the Lord is resurrecting Leonard Ravenhill and all his works and sermons. Powerful man of God. Some say he was a prophet. He just believed himself to be wholeheartedly sold out for God. He has a great testimony. He was a prophetic, powerful voice that hit straight to the conscience of the people. His preaching cut, leaving people with a verdict. So his preaching wasn't just a preaching where people went home and were never changed. His preaching had people there not leaving, because they knew that they had to make a decision before they walked out of the door. That's how raw and uncut his preaching was. From what they stated about his studies, he did more praying than he did studying. So, a lot of the burn, a lot of the fire, where he got the sword from was his prayer time. And God has been calling us back into an all hourly prayer, not your just basic, I'm going to pray for a certain amount of day. He wants us praying like all day long, because what he is about to do is going to require people of power, of spirit, of word, of encounter, a place where we come out of intimacy, out of his rest, out of knowing him for sure, because everyone's waiting for the great third awakening. And as we run around the earth as revivalists, we have to be ready to contain that awakening. The Lord is preparing us for the victory, and that I do believe. They did create a book where it was about 700 pages or more long, and it's called In the Light of Eternity, and it has all of Leonard's work in this book, all his sermons, everything he's ever preached on. I mean, it's a pretty big, decent book, but I would recommend it as this is the hour for us to get back into the place of fire, where we use the double-edged sword. Charisma Magazine published an article written by Jennifer LeClaire about him on October 31st. It was Halloween. And she stated that Ravenhill was known for his uncompromising, hard-hitting, sin-blasting message. We haven't had a message like him in I don't know how long. I feel like preachings have been semi-compromised, semi-hard-hitting, a lot of sin blasting, because that they're sure to do, but a lot of it is hitting the flesh and not our spirit. And we're talking about a man who did an uncompromising, hard-hitting, he blasted sin, but guess what? He was hitting the spirit. And a lot of these preachings are hitting more of the flesh than it is hitting the spirit. And we're not getting that raw and uncut. We're not getting the double-edged sword. We're not getting the two-sided blade. It says the two-sided blade goes straight through the spirit into the bone marrow. That's where we need to go, deep down in, where we're totally transformed. He also carried the spirit of a prophet. He carried a spirit like John the Baptist that laid the axe to the root. That's the point. Is there many of us actually laying the axe to the root? Because I think this is the hour where God's calling a generation of axe carriers, who will go around and will just cut it right from the root and just get rid of it with nothing else to have to play with. Just cut the root, get it done. And she went on to say that, but he didn't do it with critical or condemning heart. And that she is right. I've heard about maybe 3 of his sermons, plus the video that she uploaded about the spirit of a prophet. And I tell you that when he did it without being critical or condemning. He was actually funny, and at times humor, he had his humor, and at times he wept. He was with all great intentions. She went on to say that he did it with a pure heart, undefiled love, forged in the fire of God. She went on to say that the great need in America tonight, I'm convinced of this, as good as the Bible schools are with their assembly lines and producing their preachers, the greatest need in America tonight are prophets. Ravenhill once said, the prophet were men who walked with God, they felt like God, they saw like God, they wept like God, they yearned like God. They had no satisfaction in seeing the beauty of the temple. The ritual, the formality, you can locate this article on Charisma Magazine. Jennifer LeClaire wrote it on 10/31, and you can look into it further. When it comes to the prophet, the Father is rising up a company of prophets, and we're seeing that now for ourselves. I mean, as you know, prophets are remnant people. We are people who should, and when I say they should, this should be their character. There should be nothing else but this. They are men and women who walk like God, who feel like God, who see like God, and cry like God, and yearn like God. That's the character of a prophet, period. Their satisfaction, their beauty, their formality, their ritual is located in their intimacy place with the Father. That's where the forge fire comes from. I went on to say that with Leonard, that he was and still is today pure and undefiled, love forged in the fire by God. I believe God is lighting up a generation that will forge in the fire of God love on the church. So basically, God is rising up a generation. He's not rising them up, he's lighting them up to be forged in the fire of God's love in the church. It's going to be unapologetic. It's going to swing that axe to the root of our problems. It's going to bring in restoration and purity. It's going to be uncompromising, wavering faith will be no more. A church bold enough to weep for what God weeps for, to yearn for what God yearns for, and burn for what he burns for. Leonard prayed more than he studied, and there is a call for prayer in this hour. It is not only for our individual life, but it's a corporate cry as well. As I said in the beginning, God says that's great, we're having our individual time with him, but there is a corporate cry where he's gathering people together for that cry, for that greater sound. The other day I was in the vehicle and God kept talking to me about searching for the sound. And I'm like, I'm looking for a sound. And he's like, yes, you're looking for a sound. I said, where would I find the sound? In the cry. That's where you'll find the sound. In the cry. In the cry of many, you'll find one sound. So we need to be awakened to what the Lord is doing. And who will be this next Leonard Ravenhill? Who will be the next company of him, his character, and that basic of burning desire? Who will be the next one to rise up in this corporate gathering of a cry? That's what's going to come out. A pure, undefiled, uncompromising, unapologetic group of believers who are going to have that one sound, that one cry that is going to spring forth that awakening. So, that sounds great. And I can't wait for that to happen. And I can't wait to see more people gather together. There's nothing greater than being in a room with other believers who are actually burning like you. To see people sit on fire. And I'm excited for that. So the next thing we're going to look at is the Nation News. She's distracting me. Crystal, you're distracting me. The Nation News. Unfortunately, that's how I feel sometimes when I have to go through the news. It starts off with a big, I can't wait to hear it, and all of a sudden it hits with a crash because I can't take the fact that America the Beautiful is sitting on America the Confused. This week we had some news that there was some issues in Illinois district being violated. The New York Times stated that the federal education authorities staking out of their firmest position yet on an increasing continuous issue found Monday that an Illinois school district violated the anti-discrimination law when it did not allow a transgender student who identifies as a girl and participate on girls' sports team to change and shower in the girls' locker room without restrictions. Yes. So, from what I'm understanding, transgender students are allowed to now use the same restroom, locker room, whatever they believe. So, if it's a male that believes he's a female, can now be in a female's locker room with other females with separate, different private areas. And we have to allow it in the public school because it becomes a discrimination act. Well then, the news went on to say that education officials said that the decision was the first of its kind on the rights of transgender students, which are emerging as a new cultural battleground in public schools across the country. In previous cases, the federal officials had been able to reach settlements giving access to transgender students in similar situations. But in this instance, the school district has not yet come to an agreement, prompting the federal government to threaten citations. So the government's already threatening to send violations to the school district. They have 30 days to answer. Or if not, the government will begin to proceed and taking it to a higher level in the court and also begin violations and even maybe pull back their funding from the school. Well, on that note, that's very disturbing because regardless to whether a child is born man or female, we can never change their DNA. A man is born with XY and will always remain to the last breath XY. The female has XX chromosomes, and no matter what the female does, till the day she dies, she would always be XX. So whether we are in a position where we're trying to transform ourselves from the outside, the inside will never change. What disturbs me the most about this article is that if a man believes that he is a female, which we all know that, it's not right. I don't believe in it. Anyone who's a believer does not believe in it, should not believe in it. The Father says we love all, but we hate the sin, and that's a sin. We're all sinners, yes we are, but we're all willing to change because that's what grace is for. But no matter what he tries to do, no matter what he takes off and puts on, he will always be an XY DNA. With that being said, him being in a locker room with a bunch of other females, whether they're just, young ladies, children, that transgender's heart will always remain according, and it will align itself according to their DNA. So if it's a male, his heart will pump as a male. If it is a female, it will pump as a female. So having them think that they are this whatever they want to be, girl or boy, it's just a thought. It's not the reality. This person will always be who they were born to be. Regardless to what they feel, feelings have never been our friends. Emotions have never been our friends. Emotions get us in trouble most of the time because it's never right. It's, your morals and your ethics and knowing what's right from wrong that leads our path to the right way. It's God who gives us our conscience and leads us to the right way. If God wanted XY to be XX, he would give them XX chromosomes. If he wanted it for vice versa, he would give them XY chromosomes, which will make them the difference of a girl and a boy. So I think that, as a mother with children in public school, I think it's unfair to us who have our children in public school where as opposed if my son was in the bathroom and there was a female in there and she believed she was a male and they had to, deal with this because they're uncomfortable with showing their body parts in front of others that are not the same. I mean, I would feel a certain way for my son as it was if it was my daughter. If she was in the bathroom with someone who said it was a female but still hanged around with a different opposite body part, I'm not going to feel comfortable either, because remember, the heart is still pumping whatever DNA they were created with. So even transgender people have had their share where they've had both worlds. They've tested the girl ROM and they've tested the boy ROM, and they chose what ROM they wanted to play with. And that's how I see that. And I know that a lot of people on the article commented. A lot were opposed to it. Many were like, oh, what's wrong with it? We already know we're in a perverted world right now. We're in a perverted situation in America. But I still have hope for America. Everyone else still has hope for America. They're still appealing to heaven for America. And we will continue to stand strong here in America because this land was grounded and founded by God. This land was the land that was free because of God. Every president, if you look back to years ago, every president, they prayed before they made any decisions on going to war. And George Washington was big on that. He would pray, he wouldn't make any decisions before he made any war. So prayer, God, the foundation of this land has been here for a long, long, long time. And we all know that we are now coming into an attack in America where even Christians are being prosecuted, which has never, ever happened before. So I still believe that the Lord has his mercy over us and that we will have that one sound that will overcome the enemy. Our roar will be louder than his, and this too shall pass. I have, after reading the article and speaking to God about it, there is alternatives for believers. It might be, something you can do, it might be something you can't, but there are alternatives. We do not have to tolerate it. There are private schools that will help you fund your children's education. There's financial aid for them. There's scholarships for them. You're paying for their education. You're funding their schooling. And because we're doing that, they're not allowed to come in and do whatever the heck they want to do in the school. They're not allowed to bring transgenders and do all of that. Why? Because we are funding the school. This is what we believe in. And we're the ones providing the funds. What are we going to get? A violation? Then give it. Because we're the ones that are paying for that school. So that is an alternative. And the other alternative, if it's possible for those, which many are already doing it, they're homeschooling their children. I don't know what's the percentage in the state of Florida. I should have looked it up, but the majority of Floridians are homeschooling their children because they can. And it's keeping them out of the wickedness of the society. Is it a bad thing? Is it a good thing? It's your choice. It's what you see is fit for your child and how you plan to lead that child towards the kingdom of God and not the kingdom of darkness. These are two alternatives that I've been looking at for my children because, if it was a Jew, we would keep our children in a Jewish school. If it was Muslim, they would be kept in Muslims. If they were any other nation, any other culture, they would be kept in their own culture. Why not Christians? Why not Christians have that alternative, have that type of, we can have it. We can do it. We don't have to bend over backwards. We don't have to. We can know that God will provide, regardless of what we decide. But I know that we have an alternative and we don't have to tolerate it. I was in Lowe's today and I noticed that there was the woman's bathroom, the man's bathroom, and then there was a unisex bathroom. And I walked into the woman's bathroom. I said, well, I hope that Lowe's is not participating in transgender. And maybe they don't want to make it seem that way, but they put it as unisex. And I'm thinking that better be for a bathroom for an emergency. So let's say the woman's bathroom is tied up, men's bathroom's tied up, that either one can use that bathroom, and not that they're trying to implement a transgender bathroom. But this is the start of this chaos. These are things we have to pray for. Things that, these little things that people are like, I can't believe it. Guess what? Stop with I can't believe it and start getting on your knees and say, Lord, I don't want to believe it. I don't want to receive it. And we need to cast down all these perverted, confused arrows that the enemy is throwing, and people are agreeing. Why? Because there's money involved. There's money involved. They're agreeing to this stuff because there's money. Where there's money, that's where the river flows. And it's unfortunate that these children have to suffer these things. So that's what is going on with America being confused and having to have this go on in the school system, and then upholding them with a violation and then saying we're going to take away your funding. We've never had this chaos before in America. We've never had to go through this. This is beyond right now. This is to the point of it's to the point of we need to stand up. This is to the point where imagine if all Christians stood up as one voice. Do you know that we would be more than what they are? We would be more than the government. We would be a greater army. We would be a greater army. What holds us back from being that? We are called to be humble, and that's great. We are humble, but guess what? We also are called to justice. And there's an injustice on our land. What happens if we were all to rise up and come against it? And that's where the blue on our flag will be restored again. Where we would be brave and we would fight for injustice. Because this is the land that we were set free. It says, what? Home of the brave. This is the land of freedom. And right now, I don't feel we're brave and I don't feel we're freedom, but that does not mean that God does not have his hand on us. And he does. And I do believe he's given us mercy and grace and giving us that chance to just restore the land for another great awakening. But it has to start with restoring our hope and giving us back the faith to fight, to stand up and fight. Because what we're fighting against is a stronghold, not just principality. We have to go after the strong man and bind him. So that you can find on the New York Times, and that was written on November 3rd of 2015. But of course, I would never leave you with a prophetic word that's damaging without giving you some hope. You want to have some action plan for this week. You want to bring prayer for America. You want to prophesize over America. You will need to fast for America. Let's press in for an awakening. Pray for contract hearts. And pray that we receive faith that pleases the Father. So we have Bob Jones, our seer of 40 years and so. And Bob Jones, we all know, is famous for being a prophet, a seer, and all his prophecies, and just a great, from what they call him, the grandfather of faith. He was great. And before he died, he did release a few prophecies. But this prophecy, I'm going to bring you back, it's from 1985. And Bob Jones prophesied. And it says, the article stated that it says, Kansas City Royals prophecy stirs hope for revival. So again, there goes our hope for America, that revival is coming. this article was written again on Charisma Magazine, and it was from November 4th, which would have been yesterday, or the day before. And Jennifer wrote this. Jennifer LeClaire, which we love a lot. She's a great prophet. She's great in teaching, and she's got Awakening House here, prayer here in Florida, on Hollywood. She's just, and of course she's the founder of Charisma Magazine. And she wrote in this article, she said, watch the royals, because after many years of disappointment, the royal ones are entering into a time of Numbers 27:18, Numbers chapter 27, verse 18 to 23, where they are being commissioned to enter into the promises. Watch them, as they will win and bring a shift of hopelessness to hope. This is going to be like 1985. Do you remember what brought them home? Hope. Unseen will get them to first base. Then they will become unburdened and light on their feet. This carefree hope will get them to second base, and they will be filled with joy and happily steal third base with a childlike hope. But salvation will come from unlikely place, and hope against hope will bring them home. And then it happened. The Royals won the World Series in 2015 after a heartbreaking game of 7 loss to San Francisco last year. As the Associated Press put it, for these resilient Royals, no defeat is too large, no time in the game too late. At a time when hopelessness is striking the heart of America and man's heart threatened to fail them to fear of the economic meltdowns, plagues, earthquakes, and other evil prophetic forebodings, the words of Jones and Hartley are ringing in the ears of believers around the nation, believing for that third great awakening. Could God be speaking words of life and hope and revival through this baseball game? So Bob Jones in 1985 released a prophetic word, and he was talking about exactly what I just said, the Royals. They're actually a baseball team that just won the World Series, as it was prophesied. It was on the last minute, when no one thought that they would get it, that they won the game. I find it interesting that, 1, they're called the Royals. 2, and mind you, it says watch the Royals. The next thing it says, because after many years of disappointment, which we are in, the royal ones are entering into a time of Numbers 27. Can you look that up? 27, 18, and 23. Where they are being commissioned to enter into the promise. So, again, it's that place that God is confirming where we're coming into a place of hope, so that we can enter the promise of that great awakening. It says, watch them, and as they will win and bring a shift from hopelessness into hope. This is exactly where we are today. I mean, he did this in 1985. And he says, hope unseen will get them to first base. Then they will become unburdened and light. So hope unseen. So he's preparing us right now for hope. A crazy radical hope that we have not yet seen. And it's going to get us to first base. That's that corporate cry, that sound that's going to release us. And then we're going to become unburdened and light. We're going to have that axe cut right at the root. We're going to become carefree hope when we get to the second base. And then they will be filled with joy and happily steal third base with a childlike hope. But salvation will come from an unlikely place. And hope against hope will bring them home. What can God possibly have in store for us? We had the first great awakening, we had second, people said we even had the third. But after I read into it, I don't see how that can be considered a third great awakening. If God is coming to do it again, wouldn't you think he would come bigger than the last time? Wouldn't you think it would be more powerful than the last time? Don't you think that the great awakening would be just that, an awakening? An awakening to what and how much more? We won't know until we get there. And God is just implementing more hope, more hope, more hope. That's going to release joy, 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 and happiness. And we're going to turn childlike. And he brings us back to the scripture where it says that No one can enter the kingdom if it isn't as a child. So, and many times we always pondered on that. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean? You know, many people started to act immature, thinking that was childlike, and that was what they needed to do in the church in order to get into the kingdom. They so misinterpret that. You know, there's times that when we get full of joy, and we get full of hope, full of faith, and full of joy, you become like a child, carefree, and ready to run into whatever the Lord wants you to do. Where is it?
Yeah, 27, 18.
It's the whole thing.
18 to 23.
For Numbers 27, 18 to 23 says, So the Lord said to Moses, Take Joshua the son of Nun, a man in whom is the Spirit, and lay your hand on him. Make him stand before Eleazar, the priest, and all the congregation, and you shall commission him in their sight. And you shall invest him with some of your authority, that all the congregation of the people of Israel may obey. And he shall stand before the priest, who shall inquire for him by the judgment of the room. What? Of the room before the Lord. At this word they shall go out, and at his word they shall come in, both he and all the people of Israel with him, and the whole congregation. Again, that's that whole word, the whole congregation. Again, the corporate. I cannot emphasize enough how important it is for you to be around other believers who are ignited and on fire as you are, and are at the same vision, at the same line, because this is the hour where we need to be together in a corporate crying out, creating that one sound that's going to break the barriers, break down the walls, and set us into a place of carefreeness where we will encounter this great awakening. If you look back to every revival, there was much prayer before the revival came. Much prayer. I mean, people were praying. They were eating prayer, sleeping prayer, living prayer, talking prayer, seizing prayer. There was nothing that they didn't do outside of prayer. And then the revival came. So this is the time where prayer has to be implemented as much as it needs to be. Just a few days ago, we were in the kitchen, and we happened to look outside the door, and there we saw a praying mantis. And I remember Jennifer, what's her last name?
E with the V?
Mm-hmm. With the E? Envias? Look it up. Anyway, Jennifer last year gave a word about the praying mantis. And I think she even wrote a book about prayer because she kept encountering this praying mantis. Well, when she released this word, everyone who heard it began to see praying mantis everywhere. And basically it was the call that God was releasing for us to come back into prayer, to rise up intercessors, to burn up that oil, and to release the word of God. So we were in the kitchen, and I saw that, and I freaked out. I'm like, what? What that means is that God is calling this house into a time of intercession and prayer. And not only that, but I think we even looked it up, and mantis means prophet. So you have a praying mantis, you have a praying prophet on the window looking into us, and we're looking back at it, and it just was a prophetic moment of God saying you need to be a praying prophet, and the prophet's looking back at him like, what? And we're just staring at it like, it was like one of those moments where the Lord comes in and this happens. Really? Right. Where there's crickets and we're like, really? You're calling us back into intense prayer? We just came out of that, God. But God's like, I don't care. You have to, that's what you are called to do. So, I think we ended our time.
How long ago?
Probably about 22 seconds ago.
With the crickets?
Yeah. Yep.
Well, that was good.
Oh, well, I think our time is up. And we're going to end it. We'll leave you with a last song if you get to hear it.
I was trying to check to
No
see.
more filling my cup with my own tears. No more filling my cup with my own tears. I will pour